Oh, hey guys. So I made it back. Dude, my place is a mess. I want to do a video going over how my place is a mess. Maybe we'll get to that in this video. So, this video is for entertainment and education purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Alright. Enough joking around. Enough with the dad jokes, fucking boomer, right? Alright. So, okay, so I've been having this ongoing discussion about Bitchute. But it's not just Bitchute. It's Bitchute, it's Odyssey, it's Rumble, and it's YouTube. And it's TikTok, and all the other. And they're all the same. They are all the same. Okay? You can split hairs talking about all these trivial differences, but when you get down to the overall picture, if they're all the same, they're all the same. Despite all their trivial differences, that's why they're trivial, because they're just meaningless differences, you know. 6 1/2 dozen of another is just 6 1/2 dozen of another. You know what I mean? I mean, if you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. It's like 6 1/2 dozen of another, you know. All this sleight of hand trickery, you know, it's all the same, you know. All this comes down to trivial, meaningless differences that all equate to the same 6 1/2 dozen of another, okay? And so I'm talking about this. Now, I need to be challenged, just like you need to be challenged, and everyone, we all need to be challenged. And so, as long as we're reasonably challenging each other, and we're being challenged reasonably, well then, yes, it's all open for discussion. Now, I may come across as unreasonable in my challenging of this idea of, you know, there being some difference between Bitchute and YouTube and Rumble and Odyssey. I might come across cynical and maybe condescending to some degree or other, and I may seem unreasonable. Nonetheless, if I am correct that it's all the same, it's just 6 1/2 dozen of another. You know, you can split hairs all day on all these trivial differences, but that's just it. They're all trivial. And it all just equates to the same 6 1/2. And if I'm correct in this, you know, then my cynicism comes from a place of that I'm really sick and tired of this, you know, bullshit. I'm sick of the bullshit. Okay. Now I'm totally open to discussions and stuff, you know, and we can get a little cynical with each other. And I don't mean to be overtly like fuck you. I'm just very protective of not being bullshitted. And I'm very protective of other people not being bullshitted. And when I see people falling for bullshit, I get kind of, you know, I get protective of seeing people getting bullshitted by bullshit. And so I am compelled to try to, you know, like say, dude, can't you see this is bullshit? Okay? And then they can come back and tell me how, well, dude, it's not bullshit because, and they can list all the reasons why it's not bullshit, okay? And so, you know, I'm getting challenged a little bit, which is fine, because it's a reasonable challenge, and it's funny, like it's comical. So I can see kind of where a person's coming from. And so, you know, like when a person is defending Bitchute, it's like, okay, bro, okay. And so, but then, so we'll look at it. I'll just look at it. Like, for example, one of the proposed arguments in defense of Bitchute being better than YouTube is that I only had 2 views on my video in 1 hour. Whereas on Bitchute, that would not be the case. I would have more views on my video if I had uploaded it to Bitchute as opposed to YouTube. And I could say this in response. I could say, well, yes, Bitchute will show me that I have more views than that same video I uploaded. It'll show me that. But where's the proof that why would I believe if Bitchute is telling me I got 20 views on my video uploaded to Bitchute, and YouTube is telling me I only got 2 views on that same video that I uploaded to YouTube, what is it that is going to convince me that Bitchute is being honest in the view count? You cannot convince me that Bitchute is honest in that. You can't. You don't have any proof that Bitchute is being honest when Bitchute tells me I just got 20 views on my video in the last hour. Bitchute is not being, and so I'll give you an example of why a person could, it's more believable that Bitchute is full of shit than it is that Bitchute is honest. Okay? There's all kinds of evidence that can support the idea that Bitchute is not being honest. One of them being, no platform on the internet is ever honest. All these platforms are all designed to make money. You are the product, and without exception. So you cannot say, oh yeah, it's true that you're the product when it comes to YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or Rumble or Odyssey, but Bitchute is unique. Bitchute, you are not the product when it comes to Bitchute. So, and if you are of reasonable sound mind, you would have to agree with me that yes, you're right. There is no reason to believe that I am not the product when I am engaging Bitchute. And so then what you would have to do is be like, yes, point taken, angry hobo. You're right. There's no reason for you or I or anyone to believe that we are anything other than a product to Bitchute when we go and use their free services or whatever the fuck services you want to call it. No. All of this is about dopamine hits. All of this, like likes, views, subs, clicks, it's all about dopamine hits to get you addicted to whatever platform it is. So if you want to say to me that Bitchute is better, well, what is it? Bitchute is about dopamine hits. Just like YouTube, just like TikTok, just like, it's all about dopamine hits. They want you on that site. So then you would have to agree, yes, you're right. Okay, so now that you would agree that all of these platforms are about dopamine hits. They just want you on their site. Okay, that's all it is. So then, that being the case, well, Bitchute, that being said, Bitchute has a reason to lie to you about view counts then, because Bitchute wants you on their site. And you might say, well, so does YouTube. Okay, well, the thing is YouTube wants you on their site, but they're so much bigger than Bitchute, they don't fucking care. Look, I don't know how many different ways I could say this. Look, YouTube is so fucking big at this point. First of all, Bitchute is in the pockets of YouTube. you're never going to convince me they're not. You don't have any. See, there's evidence to suggest that BitChute is in the pockets of YouTube. And what evidence is that? Well, YouTube is way bigger than BitChute. YouTube brings in way more money than BitChute. That is evidence that to suggest the possibility that BitChute is in the pockets of YouTube. There is no evidence that YouTube is in the pockets of BitChute. YouTube has all the money. BitChute's e-begging for money to keep their thing alive. There's more evidence that BitChute is in the pockets of YouTube. Scroll through the popular and trending and take an aggregate of all the popular and trending channels in BitChute. I guarantee you 70% or more of all those channels in popular and trending on BitChute are YouTube channels. There's a reason that 70% or more of all popular and trending channels on BitChute are YouTube channels. See, that's the thing. And I'm not trying to say I'm right, you're. I mean, it's kind of a moot argument because, and again, I do enjoy being challenged, and I think it's important. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm right and you're wrong. But what I am saying is there is all this evidence that suggests that BitChute is just YouTube, is just Rumble, is just Odyssey. They're all the same, dude. It's all about dopamine hits. So they all are trying to figure out how to get you on their site. That's why they have the upvote versus downvote. That's why they have all of these features is for dopamine hits. And everybody knows this about the internet. The internet is about dopamine hits. You know? And that's how they get you to use these different platforms is by dopamine hits. And a view is just a dopamine hit. Okay? So let's say I'm not interested in dopamine hits. Well, then YouTube works just fine for me because I don't care if people watch my videos or not. I could give a fuck. Right? I don't care. Someone explain to me why I should care whether I get views or not. Look, you can't explain to me why it should be important to me that my videos get views. You can't. Because I already know the internet is rigged so that nobody's going to watch my videos anyway. Because the internet is rigged to algorithmically promote all the Richie from Bostons and Stick Sex and Hammers and all these other crow houses and True Stream Media. That's all it is. It's a rigged game. Just like the voting system is rigged. Just like I can't convince you that you really need to go vote. You're not going to because you know the voting system is rigged. And I'm telling you, you're not going to convince me that one of these platforms is doing its own thing. It's all bullshit, dude. They're all about dopamine hits, getting you and I addicted to using their platforms. And they all have their own way of getting you addicted, but they're all really in the pockets of the big conglomerate. You know, YouTube is the main one, dude. And I know it sucks. I agree that it sucks that YouTube is the main one. I agree. But see, that's not going to change. Just because you say BitChute is changed, it's changed. You know, it's not like that with BitChute. That doesn't mean that's true. And there is more evidence to suggest that BitChute is just bullshit like YouTube and every other platform than there is that BitChute is somehow unique. It's not. It's like when you talk about everyday people voices. When you talk about shit, let me let this ring. I want to try to wrap this up, but I probably should keep this video going. So I'm gonna return this person's call here in a little bit. I'm trying to wrap this up, but dude, I'm telling you, okay, there's all this evidence that Bitchute is no different than any other one. There is more evidence that Bitchute is the same as everything else than there is in opposition. Because you can say, well, you know, in the alt tab, you can at least like sift for hours and hours and hours and maybe get lucky and find an everyday voice. But then you say that that's not the case on YouTube. You say you can't do that on YouTube and you can on Bitchute. That's not true. I can post links to everyday people voices I've found on YouTube. Just recently, within the last, handful of months, just like I can find just as many everyday voices on YouTube as I can on Bitchute. The thing that's offensive about Bitchute is that it claims that it's different. That's what makes YouTube more respectable than Bitchute. YouTube doesn't have to make false claims because YouTube is the biggest one. YouTube doesn't need to go around parading about of how YouTube is for free speech and we're here fighting censorship. YouTube doesn't have to do that. They don't have to lie to you and tell you. Whereas a smaller one like Bitchute, they have to lie to you and say, oh, we're here for free speech. It's a lie. And that doesn't make Bitchute worse. That means that Bitchute is no different. When you try to show me that there's differences, all you're doing is splitting hairs with these trivial, meaningless differences that don't mean anything. Just because Bitchute says they're a free speech platform and Bitchute says they're fighting censorship doesn't make Bitchute a free speech platform that fights censorship. It doesn't. And just because Bitchute allows people to say nigger more than YouTube, that doesn't make Bitchute a free speech platform. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't make Bitchute any more of a free speech platform than YouTube. And going back to view counts, everybody knows that TikTok puts out fake view counts. TikTok will tell you your video got 1,000 views. Why does TikTok do that? Because that keeps you using TikTok. You really think that you're getting 1,000 views when TikTok is lying to you. Everybody knows that TikTok does that. And if TikTok does it, why wouldn't Bitchute do it? So mysteriously, I get more views on Bitchute than I do YouTube, but that's totally real. There's no reason to question why I'm getting more views on Bitchute than I am on YouTube. No, that's bullshit. And then going back to, why would I care about views anyways? Nobody can explain to me why I should care about views. Because, dude, it's totally obvious people aren't seeking truth on the internet. They're seeking validation of their confirmation bias, and they're seeking dopamine hits, not the truth. There is no truth-seeking going on the internet. That's why it doesn't matter how many views I get or not. Because all anybody gives a fuck about on the internet is confirming their biases and getting dopamine hits. So no, Bitchute isn't better than YouTube. Just because you get more dopamine hits on Bitchute than you do YouTube doesn't make Bitchute better. It doesn't. And just because you get more dopamine hits on Bitchute, that doesn't mean that therefore that people on Bitchute are seeking truth more than they are on YouTube. Bitchute is YouTube. Just like everyone goes to YouTube for confirmation bias and dopamine hits is the same reason everybody goes to Bitchute, for dopamine hits and confirmation bias. And the way you get dopamine hits and confirmation bias on these platforms is to find the echo chamber that's gonna agree with what you say. So if you believe everything is the Jews, you're gonna find the echo chamber that's gonna give you all the dopamine fucking hits and all the views. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just whether or not that echo chamber, it fits that echo chamber's narrative. See, you know all this. You're bullshitting yourself. Okay, so I mean, I'm all open for discussing this further. But I am not, just because you tell me that I only got 2 views, I mean, that's fine. And I'm not trying to condemn you for pointing this out. I'm glad you're trying to challenge. I'm glad you're challenging me. And I'm glad that you're open to being challenged. Because we all need to be challenged, you know? And I'm not saying I'm totally right. But what I'm saying, I'm looking at I already know what you're saying. Dude, look, this is, okay. The person that's telling me this, have you run a channel on Bitchute before? And if so, how long? And how many videos? Because I ran a channel on Bitchute for 3 years, averaging at least 2 meetings a week for at least 3 years. I ran a channel on Bitchute. Now, if you don't have that experience than I do, then I think that I have a right to challenge you as well. Like, run a channel on Bitchute and put out videos. If you haven't run a channel on Bitchute, then maybe you need to. I've done more investigation than you, because I have run a channel on Bitchute. Anyways, I gotta go. But I'm totally open to continue this discussion, as you can see. Whether someone engages me or not, I'm sure this subject will come up again on my channel. See you, boys.